Remember that child you once were? The one who demanded to be heard? That child whose laughter erupted without permission, who asked questions that made adults shift uncomfortably, who spoke truths that cleared rooms. That wild, unfiltered voice wasn't extinguished in a moment. It was systematically suffocated breath by breath. They didn't have to tell you to be quiet. They showed you. You were 7 when you shared your deepest fear and watched as they smirked. 9 when your excitement was met with that cutting "not now." 12 when your truth was twisted into ammunition against you. And in those crushing moments, your soul absorbed the most devastating lesson. Your silence is worth more to this world than your voice ever was. You weren't born quiet. You were hunted into hiding, stalked by rejection, wounded by those raised eyebrows, betrayed by the deafening silence that followed your most vulnerable words. So you evolved, not by choice, but by necessity. You developed that radar that scans rooms before speaking. You perfected the art of mental rehearsal, 50 versions of a sentence that will never be spoken. You mastered the dark alchemy of shrinking yourself into acceptability. You became invisible by design, and they labeled you introvert, shy, reserved. But here's the devastating truth they never name. What they call personality is often just your pain wrapped in politeness. Your so-called introversion isn't always temperament, it's trauma. Not just a response to social exhaustion, but the body's desperate attempt to protect you from being emotionally gutted again and again in environments that punished your authenticity. Maybe you were crowned the good child, praised for your obedience, rewarded for your silence, the one who never caused problems because you swallowed every scream. No one bothered asking what was burning inside you. They preferred your performance to your pain. Or perhaps you were marked the strange one. Too vivid, too curious, too everything. Your intensity branded as defect rather than gift. Why can't you just be normal? They demanded. So you dimmed your light until you could barely see yourself. It wasn't introversion, it was extinction. And here's the cruel irony that haunts you still. It worked. The invisibility cloak you were forced to wear became your superpower. You learned to read rooms like others read books, to anticipate needs before they're spoken, to absorb emotions others can't even name. You developed a vision that sees through walls of pretense. You gained the ability to sit in silence and hear what's screaming beneath the surface. But the armor that once saved you is now slowly suffocating you. Because the longer you remain hidden, the more the world believes that shadow is all you are. They call you mysterious, standoffish, impossible to know. And maybe you've forgotten too, that beneath those layers of learned invisibility lives a voice that's been waiting decades to break free. Hear this truth. You're not broken. You're not bad with people. You're not meant to exist on the margins of your own life. You're someone who was taught that your emotional depth was dangerous, that your insights were inconvenient, that your authentic expression was unwelcome. Because a world built on conformity has always feared those who see too clearly. Let this sink deep into your bones. You weren't born quiet. You were systematically silenced because your truth threatened someone else's comfort. And you can reclaim what was stolen, not through forced extroversion or performative confidence, but through the revolutionary act of refusing to disappear anymore. Ask yourself these questions that will crack you open. What truths have you buried so deep, even you've forgotten where they're hidden? What emotions have you never expressed because no one created space for them? What parts of your soul are dying for oxygen after years of suffocation? Your liberation doesn't require you to become someone new. It demands you remember who you were before the world taught you to vanish. Start with a trembling whisper if that's all you have left. Write down the words you've never been permitted to speak. Replace silence with a soft but unmistakable no when you mean it. Show up as yourself, not louder, but truer. The next time someone mistakes your quietness for coldness or indifference, remember this truth that will set you free. You weren't born this way. You were carved by rejection, sculpted by survival, forged in the flames of conditional acceptance. But now you stand at the crossroads of who you were and who you choose to become. You get to decide when silence protects and when it imprisons, when to listen and when to finally be heard. Your healing isn't measured in decibels, it's measured in authenticity. And you, with your ocean-deep emotions, your never-extinguished fire, your hard-won wisdom, you have earned the right to take up space in this world. Not just to exist, not just to survive, but to be fully, unapologetically known. You don't need to shout to claim this birthright. You just need to stop pretending you don't desperately want it. Perhaps you'll always be the one who speaks less and feels more. But from this day forward, let it be by choice, not fear. Not because the world trained you to disappear. Not because safety demanded your silence, but because you understand that in a world drowning in noise, your carefully chosen words carry the weight of mountains. And when you finally speak your truth, the world will not just hear it. The world will feel it trembling in their bones. You weren't born quiet. That was the first wound they inflicted, convincing you that your voice was too much. But beneath that forced silence burns a truth that's been waiting a lifetime to be spoken. You don't need to set yourself on fire to be seen. You just need to stop dousing your own flames. The world doesn't need more empty noise. It's desperate for the raw, unfiltered truth only you can speak.